Alrighty, I think we are now live. So, first and foremost, wanted to say thank you to everybody for participating. These launch events are always super exciting for us, and it's really one of those things that where everybody comes together. It's really the whole company, from obviously our developers and our designers, but everybody else, our sales teams, our marketing teams, our CS teams, our QA teams, everybody comes together to work on these launches, and they're really a source of excitement across the company. So thank you to all of our users for supporting us. I think one of the first questions, and I'm going to start to pass off some of the questions from the previous channel over here. But one of the things that we've been asked about is, when are these features going live? That might be a good thing to want to know. So the way that this stuff works is we want you to have an incentive to come to these launch events. So the features will go live sometime later this week, most likely, or we may roll it out progressively for some of the features, including the OKRs and the objectives functionality. But for the most part, you are one of the privileged few that got to see the release before it actually went live, and that's kind of the cadence that we're going to start using. But all this to say that we are going to go live a little bit later this week. So as I'm talking, feel free to use the chat section on the right and add any questions that you might have, and I will get through those. I'm seeing those on my screen live. So one of the questions that we have here is on integration plans with other tools. So it's interesting, John, thank you for asking that question. So the answer to the question is absolutely. We intend to add a bunch of integrations. Integrations is a pretty core strategy for us. So I noticed that you wrote Jira. We actually have a really strong Jira integration already. It's a two-way integration. So if you create notes, if you create an action item in Fellow and link it to a Jira ticket, when you update it in Fellow, it also gets integrated. It also gets updated into Jira and vice versa. So we definitely have that. But the other thing is, if you have other ideas on integrations that we should pursue first, make sure to message us on Intercom. And also, not many of you may know this, but at the bottom left side of Fellow, there's a panel, and in that panel, there's an option. You kind of have to scroll down and maybe below the fold, but when you click on our help icon and then you scroll down a bit, there's something that says suggest a feature, and you can always add suggestions for us to take a look at. We take a look at all of those things, and it really feeds the integrations that we're gonna work on next. So integrations are pretty core. I see Google Sheets is another one that would be interesting to have. And of course, GitHub is another really interesting one. I'm curious on GitHub, would you want to see it, is this for GitHub issues, or what specifically would you like to see on GitHub? That's maybe a question. But yeah, we use GitHub obviously internally, and we'd love to do some further integration there too. So one more thing that I'll kind of throw in here is that we are also, one of the things that you'll notice about the product and the company in general is, we started the year with around 20 employees. We're getting very close to 50 employees now. So everything across the board has really accelerated. We now have more than 2 million notes and meetings taken on Fellow. So we've seen a lot of growth this year. We expect that next year will also be another year full of growth. So all this to say is we have a lot more resources. We've got a lot more people. And with all the new resources and people that we have, we expect to be launching more features and more enhancements all the time. We're still going to have these 3 launches throughout the year, but the idea here is that you're just going to see a lot more every time we do this. And again, a lot of this is fed through our community and through the teams here. So please continue to send us questions and suggestions, and all of this feeds into the way that we build the product. So I will I'll wait to see if there's any other questions. I know we went a little bit long this time because there's so much to talk about. But I will add a few more things while we're here. One thing is like I have to hype this up, which is that if you liked all of the announcements that you heard so far, there's a really, really big announcement that's coming in less than 10 days. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media at Fellow.app, or you can follow me on Twitter at Aydin, at AYDIN, and you'll get to hear about the announcement in less than 10 days. It's big. You'll be very, very happy. And yes, we have so many announcements all in the same month. The other thing I wanted to say is that we also have a lot of, we've worked a lot on speed. You'll notice that now when you click on one meeting to another, you'll see that everything loads a lot faster. So we're constantly working on that, and Fellow will continue to get faster. We want you to one day be able to say Fellow is the fastest product that we use. And we're not quite there yet, but this is something that we're actively working on. And one of the so one of the questions is around, how are we going to differentiate between the features that we talked about today, in terms of if it's on the they're going to be on the Pro plan or the Org plan. The way that we largely like to think of this stuff is that things that are generally organizational features, we like to include in the Org plan, and then everything else in the Pro plan. So some things like meeting automations, this is if you're a team, you probably want to use meeting automations. So that's part of the Pro plan. Things like OKRs or 360 feedback, those are generally organizational things. So you decide as an organization, we're going to run objectives, or we're going to run 360 feedback cycles. That's typically part of the org plan. So that's generally how we differentiate. And also some integrations, like if you're integrating with Salesforce or HubSpot, so these kind of like larger integrations generally will be part of the org plan. But anything that's like productivity oriented, for example, in addition to the meeting automations we talked about, the integrations with Loom, Alexander talking about the Zoom app, the Asana integrations that we enhanced today, the Chrome extension work, all those things that are more individual and team oriented, those will continue to be part of the Pro plan. So I know we're over on time a bit. If there's any final questions, I'm happy to answer those. But you can always reach out to me on Twitter, again, at Aydin on Twitter, happy to answer. I fielded a lot of questions from many of you. And just to give you a sneak peek about some of the things that are coming in the next 3 months. So obviously we're building a lot of new things, but the thing that I wanted to talk about is one of the things that's coming very, very soon in the next few days. And you know how I said there's a major announcement in less than 10 days? This is not that. But very soon, we're going to drastically improve the way that search works. So search is really, really powerful. If you use Slack, you know that in Slack, you can press Command K and you can type any person or channel and jump into that. So now you can obviously always do this in Fellow, but our search hasn't always worked the best. Like, we're the first to admit that we haven't paid a lot of attention to search. But now that we have so many users and so many of those users have long history using Fellow, we're making this a lot better. So you're going to see our search performance. I think the number was it's 72 times faster to index or something along that. And so all this to say that we're going to release that before the end of the month, and that's not even the major announcement. So to kind of wrap things up a little bit, the final things that I'll say is that if you haven't checked out our Supermanagers podcast, one of the things we do is we interview managers and leaders from all walks of life. And the idea there is that we want to tease out all the ways that they're using their meetings and their feedback and their goal setting. And we're really trying to get the best practices and make those available. If you haven't checked out our podcast, it's one of the best things that we produce. So make sure to check that out. It's called Supermanagers on all the podcast platforms. And then the final thing is that, as I mentioned before, we've more than doubled in staff this year, and we expect to do another doubling. So we are definitely hiring. So if you know anyone who's passionate about making meetings work better for everyone, it's really a global mission for us, every organization in every country of the world. So if there's any interesting people that we should talk to, if you are interested in yourself in joining us on this journey, we are always looking. And that brings us to an end. Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you to the team at Fellow for doing such an amazing job with the features and the launch today. Another big announcement coming before the end of the month. And with that said, we'll see you all at the next launch.